Salutations, and welcome to another episode of Foxx Plays Kerbal Space Program, the 365-day challenge. So, as you saw in the previous episode, Bill and Bob having, after the discovery of carbonite on the moon, Bill and Bob got into a big heated argument. Bob wants to build space stations as orbital fuel depots for the carbonite, and Bill says no, that's not important. What's important is finding out where all the carbonite is, in the rest of the solar system. So, two competing projects, but fortunately KSC is funded up the wazoo, so we can do them both. So last episode, yesterday, we put up the first module of a space station for Kerbin, but today we're going to launch a satellite designed to find carbonite on Minmus. So, I'll see you in the VAB. And here we are in the VAB with our rocket and our satellite nestled up top. So these parts, once again, from the Tantares pack. The Tantares pack is split kind of into two parts. There's the vehicles, kind of your payloads, and that's the Tantares pack. And then there's the Tantares lift vehicle or launch vehicle mod, which can be found on the same page, but it has all the launch vehicles. And this is the R7 model. It's called Tavio in game. The Tantares pack has kind of different names for everything. So, R7 becomes Tavio, and Tantares is equivalent of Soyuz. Anyway, we're going to remove the shroud and take a look at our probe here. So, first off, we're using our carbonite detector. Very important. We've got a probe core. We've got oversight. Let me just fix that. And use our editor extensions to make sure that goes where it needs to go. Alright, so we've got our Kerbal Engineer. We've got a small antenna from Tantares. We've got battery, pair of antenna. We've got these small little solar panels. These are from the Paul spacecraft, which is the Tantares equivalent of Cygnus. Now the tricky thing about these panels is they're lighter, but they have no sun tracking capability. They're fixed. Once they're deployed, they are in that orientation for the whole duration. So, and then we have a fuel tank and a liquid fuel rocket from RLA Stockalike, which is a wonderful mod pack. Highly recommend it. And, alright, so we're going to put our decoupler back on. And shroud this up. And we're going to launch this to Minmus. So I will see you on the launch pad. Alright, so here's our rocket on the launch pad, ready for launch. And here we go. Boom. So yeah, the couple of cool things about this rocket, I think. First off, again, procedural fairings is now installed, so we'll have much better looking rockets. And then we have back to the Tantares parts briefly. Is I really like the look of it. Recently, I've been getting more and more into the Russian spacecraft and the Russian space program. Just because, in recent years, I feel that the American space program has kind of let us down. With the shuttle being grounded, and then for years there was nothing. They said, oh, don't worry, as soon as the shuttle is retired, we'll have Constellation underway, and the Ares rockets will take us into the future. And we all said, okay, great. And then it never happened. So it's kind of how I grew up. I was very annoyed. But recently, I've been looking at the old Soviet missions, and I'm just going, wow, these guys had it right. But yeah, so you'll see that this is, although on the one hand it's the same parts for the Soyuz launch vehicle, it's kind of short. So I kind of see this as more of as kind of a Vostok era rocket. It's almost, come to think of it, it's almost exactly the right dimensions for Vostok. But anyway, we're not merely looking to orbit the globe, we're looking to go to another world entirely. Anyway, our launch is going pretty smoothly, and pretty soon we're going to hit our turnover complete point, and we're going to remain at 45 degrees for more or less the rest of the ascent. So one final thing that I absolutely love is for people who have tried to kind of recreate the R7 rocket using stock parts, is they'll run into a problem with these boosters, with these strap-on boosters, and that is that with the real rocket in real life, there's a phenomenon, and it's called the Korolev cross, and it's basically impossible to replicate with stock decouplers due to a kind of a bug with how Unity handles it. But the designer has specifically made decouplers that will make that phenomenon happen. So here it is, booster cutoff, and look at that. Perfectly symmetrical. Look at that. We're going to throttle up just because we've lost so much thrust to weight ratio. But look at that. So pretty. Beautiful Korolev cross there. Of course, named for... can't remember his first name, but obviously his name was Korolev, and he was the guy that designed this rocket that has been faithfully represented in KSP. Anyway, so that's kind of our launch. The rest of it is kind of doesn't matter, so I think I'm gonna cut here, and I'll see you in orbit. And here we are in orbit. Well, not quite, but ditch our shroud, and we're actually gonna ditch our stage. This was actually kind of a stage and a half deal, but we don't need it anymore. We're going to ditch it on a mostly suborbital trajectory. I want to deploy our solar panels nice and quick, because we don't have much battery life. And we are going to rotate slightly just so I can see my antenna. Alright, nice little ship here. Alright, so we're going to point prograde, and actually, no, I'm just going to point that way, and so I'm going to set us up with a proper orbit, and actually, I'll set us up with a proper orbit, and we'll circularize. And then I'll set us up with a node to get us to Minmus, and yeah. Trying to make frequent cuts just because I really want to keep this video short. So, and I'll see you when we're ready to circularize. All right, we're ready to circularize. Gonna have our SAS point us at our maneuver node. And throttle up. We missed it slightly, but shouldn't be too much of a problem. it genuinely doesn't matter. Alright, so that's us in a proper orbit. So I'm gonna stop again and set us up with a maneuver node that'll take us all the way to Minmus. Then I'll come back and we can do the burn. Right. Well, let me get to work. All right. So I forgot that we needed to make an inclination change, and this is going to take a lot of delta V. So best get started. And I missed my my window by a few seconds. I just wanted to make sure that I was covering what I needed to cover. Alright, close enough. Alright, and what's our... Ooh, you know, that's not quite close enough. So I'll set another maneuver, and that's our minus... We're going to just zip around here. And there we go. Let's have our SAS point us at the correct target. A little bit late, slightly late on our, but fortunately this is a fairly low delta V burn, so, what's our, not a number, that's how close it is. Alright, so at this point I'm gonna just pause the recording again, get our maneuver set up for our burn to Minmus, and we should have just enough delta V, I think. Alright, well, I'm going to set up that maneuver now. Alright, here we are with our maneuver node set up, and we're aligned correctly. We're even catching a little bit of sun with our solar panels. Very tricky when they're fixed. Gotta be just right. So we're going to initiate burn at 21 seconds, there we go. That should get us pretty close. So this is a 830-ish, 850-ish delta V burn. So we'll have like 300 left over, 400, which should be plenty to get us into an orbit around Minmus. Oof, this is a long burn. Even with a thrust-to-weight ratio as high as ours, which is it's like 2.6, 2.7, and rapidly increasing because most of this, the mass of this probe is fuel. But our carbonite detector picking up carbonite even now. Very small quantities. That's why the discovery of it on the moon was so important. As Kerbin's supply of carbonite is critically low. So that's why it's so important that we find alternate sources of carbonite. Whoa, quit spinning us around, buddy. Alright, so we want to Alright, we want to basically just point normal. And alright, that looks good. And let's fast forward a whole bunch. We're going to go through the dark side. But shouldn't last long at this high time acceleration. Boom. There we are. I quite like this little probe. Oh, by the way, our probe's name is Kosmos. And interestingly, the name Kosmos was used for by the Soviets and later the Russians for all kinds of their space probes and space vehicles. Basically, it was a catch-all. They used it for everything. They called everything Kosmos. They wound up using it something like 2,000 times. For one thing, they used the Kosmos designation for anything that made it into Earth orbit that wasn't supposed to be there. So all those failed probes that wound up in a Earth orbit that were meant to go to like Mars or something wound up with a Kosmos designation. But this is our probe here is its designation is Kosmos 1. So exploring the cosmos. So very cool. All right, I'm just gonna set up our maneuver node quickly. What's our periapsis like? It's all right. What's going on there? What is it not like? There we go. Alright. So we still have 400 delta V, give or take. So we want... try and get it circular, more or less. And then if we need to, we'll go for a Hoffman transfer. To a lower orbit. We're not too concerned if it's eccentric, but we do want inclination, kind of, if we can get it. You know, actually, let me think about this. Let me think about this. What kind of encounter can we get if we go normal? All right, so we'll still get our encounter. And this far out, it's pretty cheap. So yeah, let's go with that. Right, so, and you know what? Just because this is going to take kind of precise timing, I'm going to make a cut here, and we'll come back when we do our inclination change. All right, here we are, and boom. A little bit more than we bargained for, but that works. That works. Just setting up our next maneuver, and this will be our capture into mid-miss orbit. All right, so that's still plenty of time away, and well, let's just time accelerate. See, I'm just very, very wary that. Oh, and there it is. You can just barely see it in the distance. I'm just very wary that these things can sneak up on you awfully quick in time acceleration, but I also don't want it to go too long. So. 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, drop a time level step. All right, we've transitioned to min-miss SOI. So that's exciting. Alright, and so I think at this point we need to point at our maneuver node. And that does mean that we're a little... let's do some rotation, because I think we can get our... Oh, no, that's the wrong button. If we rotate around our axis, we can... There we go. Plenty of sun hitting our panels to to keep our spacecraft alive. And I'm actually going to take a reading. Okay, we're too high, so we are definitely going to need to transfer to a lower orbit. So once we, and our capture is going to take about 200, and we've got about 400 left. So I think once we're captured, if we make 100 delta V burn to lower our orbit, once we hit our periapsis, we can use 100 delta V, give or take, and that should more or less circularize us. It's not quite as, doesn't actually work quite as well as I've described, but it works all right. Just a little bit more time acceleration, get us to our maneuver node. And this maneuver is critical to get right. So we want to initiate burn at 5.5. So 6, 5.5. Give or take. Alright, so we've got 170 delta V, give or take. So we're actually, yeah, we're gonna point retrograde. And we're gonna burn up about 74 delta V. Oh wow, we don't even need that. Look at how quick that goes. Alright, so we're gonna settle into a, I think, $150, give or take. Alright. And set up another maneuver node. And oh wow, we've got tons of fuel. Tons and tons and tons. Alright, so we're only going to need 32 meters per second to circularize. So that's plenty. Alright, and we need to tell it to stop pointing at stuff. Alright, so making sure we're getting plenty of sun. And we're going to time accelerate down to our destination here. You know what? I'm actually gonna take a pause here, and I'll meet you at our maneuver node. All right, here we are. Just a matter of seconds away from our maneuver node. We'll use our SAS to point at the maneuver. Now, see, this is the kind of situation where I don't mind the new SAS system. It does actually, have a very useful part to play. But all right, and just a little bit of time acceleration. All right, plenty. All right, so let's see. Kind of data can we get here? Oh, I saw a spike of 6% there. Look at that. 7%. Looks like there's large areas where there's just nothing. You know what it could be? It could be that the range is exactly 150 kilometers. So I'm going to lower my orbit slightly again. So let's see. Let's point retrograde. And the difference in terrain height of Minmus will change that is easily a couple of kilometers. So we're going to dip down just below 100 kilometers. That should give us much better readings. So the other great thing about having, well, there are two great things about having a highly eccentric or highly inclined orbit. Sorry, and that is that. Well, the first advantage is that you're able to cover more of the orbited body with your satellite. But the other advantage is that if it's a high enough inclination and the altitude is high enough, you can be in a state where you're always or nearly always receiving solar power, because you never actually pass into the planet's shadow. Now that'll change during some parts of the year, but yeah, you can easily wind up where, for say, all but a few days out of the year, you have wonderful, wonderful solar energy. Just, not at this exact moment. So there's just a 7 delta V burn, so it's tap. It's not hold. All right, and burning nicely, very nicely, and boom. All right, we're gonna tumble through space a bit. Call that good, and we're gonna flip around. Oh, there's the sun again. There she is. Look at that, beautiful. Now how are our readings? Nope. Does it help if we point at the planet? It does not. Apparently there are large parts of Minmus that just have no carbonite at all. So that's an interesting finding. So we're gonna just use our little antenna to transmit those results back to Kerbin, and that's our mission for today, folks. Certainly hope you've enjoyed watching, and well, I've been Foxonius, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.